Welcome to The Career Refinery, the podcast for dreamers, doers, and anyone ready to rewrite their career story. I'm Amy, and we're bringing you real stories of bold career transitions, passion projects turned businesses, and the mindset shifts to make that all possible. So if you've ever wondered, what if I just went for it? You're in the right place. Ever felt stuck in your career and wondered if there's more out there? Megan spent a decade rising through the ranks at KPMG without a university degree, only to leave it all behind for a fresh start as an estate agent. In this episode, we unpack her unconventional path, the courage it took to pivot, and what she's learned about success along the way. If you've ever dreamed of making a big change, this one might just be your sign. Hey Megs.
Hello.
Thanks so much for coming on the pod.
Thank you so much for having me.
I can't wait to get into your story and can't wait for listeners to hear more about how you've done what you've done and how you've got to where you are now. To get started, do you want to just give a really quick intro to you, who you are, where you started and where you are now?
Amazing. I am Megan. I am 28 years old. I grew up in Spain, did all of my schooling out there until A-levels, came back to the UK for A-levels, and then went straight into the corporate world where I was for roughly 10 years, and then very recently, complete career change into a estate agency.
Love that. So you said you went straight into the corporate world, didn't go to university.
Exactly.
I'd love to dive into that a bit more. How did you manage to do that?
Yep.
And just how that felt and if you regret not going to uni.
Absolutely. So I, as I mentioned, did my schooling in Spain, came back to the UK for my A-levels. Didn't really know what direction I wanted to go in, whether I wanted to go to university at all, what I would study if I were to go to university. So took a year out and did a classic gap year at the time where I kind of was just figuring out what I wanted to do. Met a ton of people with tons of wisdom and older as well, who had said to me, like, don't just focus on school, university, job, like have a look at what other opportunities are out there. So I came back to the UK and applied for jobs, entry-level jobs that would potentially be worth postponing uni for another year or potentially completely not going to university at all. So applied for quite a number of big firms, KPMG being one of them, and managed to land a job there. Initial intention was do it for a year, then go to university, just get a bit of work experience on my CV. But no, ended up joining and then moving roles within the firm and never ended up leaving. Amazing. To be honest.
So how did you land a job at KPMG without having gone to uni? Because everyone would think, to get into one of those big four companies, you have to have a degree.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, I do think I was very lucky to get an interview. So even just getting in front of people, I think is the biggest first step. I applied for a very entry-level job, HR assistant in an onboarding team. They were doing a mass kind of recruitment at that level. So I think they needed A, the numbers, and B, it was kind of, there wasn't a huge focus on experience at that point for that job. So I do think I was very lucky to get in at that time, but also just getting in front of people and being able to showcase that I've got the skills to do the role was a huge step.
Yeah, and I guess at that point, did you have much on your CV from a work point of view? Had you done roles whilst at school, like, part-time jobs? Do you think that helped?
I'd done hospitality, which I think so many people when they're doing school are kind of doing hospitality on the side. So tried to really use, as niche as it was, transfer the skills from hospitality into that role.
Yeah, no, I think for sure. And any job you have, you're learning something. And it's just trying to figure out, okay, well, those skills that I'm learning in this part-time job, whether it is working in a restaurant, a shop, at Saracens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like we did way back when, there are skills that you are picking up then that are transferable 100%. To a corporate.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting. I remember the job interview so clearly because it was all competency based. And I said from the start, I'm so sorry, all of my examples are going to be from the pub, from hospitality, from Saracens, from Watford. And they were like, don't worry, it's still an example. Like everyone has scenarios that can be kind of involve some sort of competency-based experience, question, scenario.
For sure. And I think at that age, what were you, 18,
19.
Old, you're not expected to have had years of experience in corporates, because why would you have had? So I think that's a really good takeaway. So how did you feel when you were working at KPMG without the degree? Did you at times feel that, you lacked the skills, or did you quite quickly try and find ways to make those skills up, I guess, in real life through work experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I remember going in, and there was such a huge mix of people, experiences. I remember there was someone there who had a master's from Cambridge, and I was thinking, gosh, I'm working alongside someone who's left university and got a similar role to me. So I'm thinking, am I going to do this temporarily and then go to university, then potentially come back and still get the same role? So that's when I started questioning the whole university thing. I did compare myself, and I was like, oh, am I going to be held back in my career because of the lack of degree? But at that age, at that point, I think I was just so much more focused on working, getting experience, meeting people, moving teams, just absorbing everything, that I didn't necessarily see it as a potential kind of blocker at that point.
Okay, so you sort of found the opportunities to excel as quickly as you could. Perhaps, some people go to university for 4 years.
Absolutely.
I did. That's a long time in a corporate to, as you said, meet people, gain those key skills that are needed in the workplace. So at what point did you decide, okay, I'm going to stick with it, I'm not going to uni? So 6 months in?
Yeah, so interestingly, I think I mentioned that when I got the role at KPMG, they were doing a mass kind of hire in that department specifically. And again, through lack of knowledge and stuff like that, when I went for the job interview and then they hired me, they actually brought me on on a temporary contract, which again, at the time I was like, oh, great, I've landed a job at KPMG. Didn't even think about what is a temporary contract. Why would they be putting me on a temporary contract? So started and quickly realised that the whole department was on a temporary contract. So I wondered, have we all been brought in for a specific project, and is this only going to be short term? Which ended up being the case. So we were all on this short term contract, and then I remember one day they came in maybe 3 months in, and the whole department essentially got made redundant. And I was gutted. I was like, I can't believe I've turned down university for a temporary role. Like, this is crazy. What am I going to do? And all of these really, really senior people came in, and I remember it so well. They were like, does anyone want to have a conversation? Does anyone want to speak to them? And everyone sheepishly with their heads down were like, no. And little 18-year-old me, I was like, yeah, absolutely I do. Like, this is crazy. How can we do this? And I remember getting taken into a room. Everyone else just left, got taken into a room with, I can't remember who it was at the time, head of people, head of whatever. And I sat there and I said, and I just spoke my facts. And in hindsight, that's what then gave me subsequent opportunities. I left having had this conversation with these people, and I must have stuck in their minds for a positive reason. The following week, got a call from the recruiter saying, can you please come back? We've got a new role for you. So then rejoined KPMG very bitterly. I wasn't happy, but in hindsight, ended up being, I've got nothing bad to say about them. I actually left on the best terms and thought they were an amazing firm to work for. But then went back and then ended up being there for 9-ish years.
And what do you think made you go and have that conversation with them? Was that because you wanted to tell them how you're feeling?
How I was feeling. I just thought it was just to tell them how I'm feeling, to prevent other people kind of going through that, explain how my process and how I felt like I'd been potentially kind of misled a little bit, and how that had impacted potentially my career because I'd turned down an opportunity to be here, and I just didn't think that had all been factored in. So, yeah, in hindsight, one of the best things that could have happened, and it made me kind of really understand more about the corporate world and what can happen and changes and how you've got to kind of grab onto every opportunity and all of that stuff. So, yeah, a very weird time, but because it was so new to me, I don't think I really understood the whole concept of redundancies and temporary contracts and permanent contracts, etc.
Right. So maybe your naivety being younger in a way helped. And you were like,
Massively.
why would I not have a conversation
Yeah.
with these?
Why is everyone else leaving?
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
exactly.
But it played in your favour.
Massively.
Okay, cool. So you started at KPMG.
Yes.
And you then were there for 7 years.
Roughly, yeah, give or
So
take.
talk me through the journey and what sort of roles you had and I guess the promotions and where you got to within that 7 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So started, like I say, as an HR assistant in the onboarding team. I was there not for very long, 3 months or so, and then moved into another entry level role in professional qualifications. So dealing with all of the graduates, the apprenticeships, the all of the qualifications that people, the graduate schemes that people join when they join KPMG, which gave me a really good view of all of the different pillars that are at KPMG and the different routes that people take. Then moved into resource management, which is where I spent the rest of my career. I went into the audit department and then followed into the transaction services department.
Wow, so quite a varied career in terms of all the different roles. But was the underlying role the same?
The roles differed, so professional qualification differed to resource management, but the roles in resource management were similar.
Okay, and all falls within HR?
The first role fell in HR, the second role was kind of its own standalone, and then resource management was a function in itself.
Okay, and were those changes driven by you, or did you sort of see the opportunity and go for it, or were they promotions that meant you had bigger resources team, etc.? How did that work?
So professional qualifications came from the conversation that I mentioned before. And then resource management was a new opportunity in London. So up until that point, I'd been in the smaller office in Watford, which was nearer to home. And then an opportunity came up in London. I was ready to kind of go to the city, so went into resource management. I'd known a couple of people who had done similar kind of administrative roles and then gone into resourcing. So I thought that could be quite a good opportunity. So went into resource management in the audit team, and then got promoted to senior resource advisor, and then had another promotion into the transaction services team.
Okay. So what skills, traits, personality perhaps do you think helped you climb the corporate ladder, quote unquote, or helped you move around like you did, get promoted, etc.? What are those core skills?
I think, I know everyone says it, but people skills is a huge factor. Really kind of making the most of every opportunity, every person you meet, really kind of use those skills. Because then people notice you and people want to give you an opportunity. And 9 times out of 10, people do want to help you and they want to see you progress. I think being really open about your kind of goals and where you want to get to, and then trusting that people will help you achieve that as well. For example, in professional qualifications, they knew that wasn't my long-term goal, but they were helping me and giving me opportunities to kind of step up to further help my career in the future. So people skills is a massive one for me. Confidence, having confidence in your ability. I think it sounds cringe, right? But backing yourself, knowing that whatever job you give me, I'm going to do it to the best of my abilities. May not be perfect. There may be hiccups along the way. I may mess up and have to start over, but 100% knowing that what I bring to a table is going to be my best, and kind of trusting in that. So confidence is a huge thing. And I guess kind of a bit of flexibility to taking a few risks and not knowing necessarily what that role is, but go and do it, try it. What's the worst that's going to happen? So being open to opportunities that you may not have kind of considered before.
Yeah, I think that's really, really insightful. And I think the three sort of core takeaways there for me are being open and saying yes,
Yeah,
and as you
saying
said,
yes.
taking the
Yeah.
risks, because you don't know what an opportunity really is until you're in it.
100%.
And then once you're in it, giving it everything you've got, because, you know, especially when you're early on in your career, you may not be doing the glamorous job roles, the tasks within the job role. It's not glamorous all the time, but it's so important in your early years to make the most of the opportunity and prove to other people that you can do it, and you do it well, no matter what it is. And then the third one around being transparent. I think a lot of people sort of are quite protective of, okay, well, actually this job isn't for me, but I want to get there. But I'm not going to tell my manager that because I don't want to, you know, not upset them, don't want to be brutally honest in case it holds me back in this current role. But actually, how are people going to help you move into that other role, or perhaps help you develop that other skill if they don't know that you want to do it?
And there's ways of doing it. Like, it's not, you don't need to be so honest where you say, I don't like this job, it's not for me, I want to move over there. It's kind of, I feel like I'm really skilled in X. Can I have more opportunities in X? I feel like I'm lacking skills in Y. Can you help me kind of, hone in on that?
Yeah, or even, you know, and it sounds like you made the most of meeting people and getting to know people to try and understand what they do as well. Absolutely. And I think just having a conversation with someone to understand more about their role is a really good idea, because otherwise, how do you know?
Especially in these big firms, there are so many roles that people have never even heard of. So see what's out there and just kind of go for it.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. So for people that don't want to maybe go to university, what would your one piece of advice be for them to break into a big company like KPMG, like you did?
I think we mentioned it just now briefly. It's kind of like being open to whatever role. It's so much easier to move within a firm once you're in the firm. So if you want to do a very specific role, don't just apply for that role. Find your company, find the companies you want to work for, see what roles suited to you with your skill set right now, and try and get in that way. It may add an extra year on to your longer term career, but it will be worth it because you will be in there. And it's so much easier to move around when you know the people, when they know you, when they know how you work, when they know how great you are. And it will be just so much easier once you're in there. So tailor your job applications to your skill set rather than to your desired role.
Yeah,
I think.
I really like that. I think, once you're in the door, once your foot's in the door, it's a lot easier.
Massively.
And then just trying to make your CV or whatever it is, I guess, you know, if we think about someone that isn't going to uni, wants to stand out, back to the point around transferable skills from maybe part-time jobs that they've got, you know, anything you can sort of dress up in some way. So I think that's really, really good advice. So what about listeners that are considering whether to do a degree or not? What would your advice be to them?
My advice would be, I think, and I'm sure you agree, in our school, in many schools around the UK, it's very kind of drilled into us: school, university, job, that is the career path. And I don't think I knew, and I don't think a lot of us knew how many other opportunities there were. When I joined KPMG, when I was in the professional qualifications team, school leaver programs, apprenticeships, the public sector offers some amazing schemes. There's so many schemes out there that I don't think enough people know about. So do your research, see if there are any schemes that could be better for you. Degrees are fantastic, and I think they are necessary for certain roles. But if you're not 100% set on going to university, if you're not 100% set on a specific role that you're after, look at what other opportunities are out there. Just do your research before making any kind of commitments or any decisions.
I completely agree. And I completely agree with it just felt like the next step that you had to take. And I think maybe you and maybe there was two of our sort of girl group that didn't go to uni. Was what, 12 others of us went to university just because it was the done thing. But how many of us in that girl group now are using our degrees for the job we're in?
Probably very few.
Very few. And I'm not saying don't go to university, because it was some of the best years of my life.
Exactly.
But it's not the only option.
Absolutely. And I look at university, I'm like, it's such an amazing experience for people. And I'm jealous of it. I genuinely am. Like, I know everyone who went has had different experiences, but it's such a fantastic opportunity for the right result. So I think just do your research and make sure it's the right route for you before committing to that.
Yeah, no, I love that. So let's just focus on, so we're at KPMG. We've been there for 7 years.
Yeah.
How are you feeling at this point?
Good. I absolutely loved my time there, like genuinely loved it. COVID came around and started working remotely. And I think that made me realize, do I love the people? Do I love that environment? Am I kind of enjoying the role because I love the people that I work with? Or do I actually love this job itself? Or have I kind of just ended up in a bit of a hamster wheel where I've just moved from department to department and it's kind of keeping it interesting, but do I actually love this job, and do I see myself doing this for the future? That was where probably the turning point. So I perhaps started questioning, what are the next steps in this resource management role? Manager, but like where do I kind of see myself going from here? And I worked with some amazing kind of inspiring people, women as well. Like the head of resource management was an amazing woman, and I'd look at her and I'd be like, gosh, that's so inspiring, but is that where I see myself going? Perhaps not. So that just really made me start questioning it. So I think I kind of got to a bit of a crossroad where I was like, I need to decide whether this job is for me. So perhaps trying resource management in a different company could be a good test of that, to see whether the actual role itself is great and I love it or not. So that's where I then moved to a smaller consulting firm.
Okay.
Still in resource management.
Interesting. I think that's really, really smart, actually, because sometimes it's difficult to know, is it the role or is it the big company? And making a move and just changing one of those aspects is really smart, because then you can understand more about whether it's the role or not.
Exactly.
And I completely agree. I think COVID, for a lot of people, when you take away, you know, the meetings, the fun aspects, the social aspects of work,
which
you're just fully focused on your day-to-day job and the actual role, the tasks of your role. And I think for a lot of people, COVID made them realize, I don't actually like my job.
I don't know if this is for me long term.
And, you know, I think, and I was similar actually. During COVID, I was in a graduate scheme in the sales team for 6 months, and I'd previously done an internship in that exact sales team, and I was sort of thinking, this is what I want to do. I want to be in the sales team. I absolutely love it, because I'd had the internship. Then fast forward 2 years, I was in COVID, and all of the fun aspects of sales had gone. Sales is socializing, it's events, it's meeting people. None of that was there. So I was like, actually,
you go to the core responsibilities of the role, and then you start kind of figuring out whether it's for you or not.
Yeah. So you moved to a smaller company. So tell me about that.
Yes. So I actually got approached by the recruiter there, at a very good point, because it was when I was starting to question my role at KPMG and where I saw myself kind of progressing. So I got approached by a smaller consulting firm, 600 globally, actually based out of Australia, but they had a small presence here in Europe and the UK. And it was for a standalone role in resource management. So what I'd been doing to date, looking after Europe, the UK and the Middle East, with potentially the opportunity, if things went well, to expand that function. So I thought that's a really good opportunity for me to go in from the start and potentially grow my own team, if everything kind of went well. And so joined the consulting firm, and they were amazing as well, absolutely fantastic. It was a fully remote job, which I thought I was used to, having been working remotely with COVID. I thought, great, I can do fully remote. That sounds amazing. And paired that, interestingly, with the life event of moving into London. So moved into London and was working fully remotely and started this new role. Role was great, similar to what I was already doing. Company was fantastic. The experience was different in the sense of going from KPMG, which is 17,000 in the UK, to looking after 600 people globally, was a huge difference. And focusing kind of more on Europe, Middle East, just gave me a completely different experience. But the actual core responsibilities of the role, of the resource management, remain the same. And I think a year in, I perhaps realised, okay, the test that I wanted to do, the levers that were kind of driving me, the role itself wasn't my long-term kind of goal.
Right. And do you know why that was? Was it you weren't interested necessarily in what you were working on? Did you lack fulfillment? Did you, what were those
Yeah.
things that were missing perhaps?
I think in that role specifically, and I know a lot of roles are like this, it's a constant, there's no kind of end goal. So there's no kind of project, you finish it, great achievement, you move on to the next one. It's a constant moving puzzle. And I kind of felt a lack of achievement. Nothing, it never ended. Like there was no goal, there was no, I can't, I don't know. There was just no kind of end goal, which I guess didn't really keep me motivated. I lacked a sense of kind of fulfillment, of achievement, of enjoyment, really.
Yeah, I think that is key, really. For a lot of us, we want to feel like we have achieved something,
Yeah.
whether it is by day or by week or by month. I think that's really important in a job, for sure. So that makes complete sense. So I guess then the signs that it wasn't for you started at KPMG in terms of the role. Then you made the test of moving to a smaller firm, which I think is really smart. And then sort of a year in, the signs were still there.
Yeah.
Was there one particular tipping point that made you think, I have to get out? Were you sort of miserable, or were you just, I want to do something else?
I wasn't. Certainly wasn't miserable. I think I was just coasting. I wasn't challenged, and I'm such a huge advocate for being challenged and kind of remaining motivated. I get fulfillment from that. A lot of people don't need that and are happy to kind of have a really comfortable 9 to 5, leave work at work. Like everyone has different, I guess, goals in life. I was at a point in my life where I was living in London, working fully remotely in my 20s. I didn't need that. I didn't need to coast. I didn't need to have spare time. I had a great life and I loved it and I enjoyed the balance. But at that time in my life, I didn't need it. So I think I just needed more of a challenge. Was there a particular point? I don't actually think there really was. I think it was a gradual period of time where I thought I just need something more. If not, I'm going to end up getting lazy. I'm going to end up getting bored. I'm going to end up resenting my role here. And I one thing in life, I'm like, I always leave when you're actually in a good place. Don't ever leave somewhere when you're kind of hating it, when you're low. Always leave in a good place. Leave with your head held high. Leave on good terms. I'm such a huge advocate for that. It's like, I know it sounds ridiculous, right? Go for a meal. Always leave slightly wanting more. Like I could have done more. I could have stayed. I could have got more out of that. But no, I'm leaving at a really good point in my career.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting actually, because then you are going into the next thing still with energy, still with a positive experience you've had, rather than some people perhaps know something's not quite right for them. They don't really do much about it. Then they find themselves 5 years later where they're completely burnt out, they're completely exhausted to the point where they don't have the energy, the motivation to find what's next. And then maybe they do, they then go into the next thing completely at zero. So I think actually that's a really good piece of advice. But how did you start thinking about your next move? What was the sort of thought process? Because obviously with Maze that we're building, that is the platform that hopefully will help people that were in your position. But how did you do it?
Yeah, exactly. So I started thinking about it. I wanted to get a good couple of years on my CV at the consulting firm, so it didn't look like I was kind of jumping around. So I wanted a good amount of time there, and then I started thinking about, right, what skills have I gained over the years in resource management across KPMG and across the consulting firm? What am I lacking? Where can I kind of get more experience, and try and do that still within before leaving? Where can I kind of broaden my skill set a little bit to help me in my next move? What do I want to do? What am I not enjoying about this role? What do I want? I wanted more of a challenge. I wanted to test myself with, for example, a commission-based role, which was the main next step, which we can go on to. But I was like, I really want to push myself to achieve what I'm putting in. So get out what you're putting in. And I felt like I was kind of putting in minimal because I was getting out what I needed to. I was doing the bare minimum because that's all I needed to. So I was like, I really want to challenge myself to do more and get more out of it. So it was a kind of combination of all of that. What do I want? What do I have? What am I lacking? And how can I kind of use that in my next career move to make sure I'm fulfilled and challenged?
Okay, that's really smart. And it's very similar to sort of what Maze will eventually do, hopefully, digitally.
It would have been great to have that.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. So what were those, I guess, options then that after you did that exercise, did you have a couple of options, or did you just sort of come up with one that you then aimed for?
So I think the power of your network's incredible, and I think people don't give enough credit to chatting to people, chatting to friends in different industries, speaking to friends, chatting to mentors, using all of those people around you. Again, like I said before, 9 times out of 10 people want to help you. If they don't have the answer, if they don't have the knowledge, if they will give you the name of someone who may have had a similar experience to you, be in an industry that may be something you're looking at. So the power of your network's incredible. But I kind of sat down. I was really like, right, what do I want? Sales, something salesy, something commission based that's going to really challenge me, that's going to keep me like in check. There's no kind of coasting. There's no sit back and relax and do your day to day. It will challenge me. What industries am I genuinely interested in? What industries am I genuinely passionate about? I was looking at the sports world, the fashion world, the media world, which at the time I had no idea. I'd been in a role for years. I hadn't really looked at jobs for years since, because I was approached by the consulting firm, and before that was at KPMG for 7 years. I didn't really know what the job market was like, so I had no idea how competitive that would be at that time. So kind of looked at all of that and then just searched for kind of what roles fit into that category, and was looking at a range of kind of, yeah, like I say, sales roles, account management roles. Yeah, they were the main ones I was kind of leaning towards.
Okay. And then how did you decide on the pivot?
The pivot.
Yeah.
So again, I feel like my life generally, a lot of stuff happens by chance and by kind of opportunity. Not by chance, that's unfair, but stuff happens and then an opportunity comes from it.
Okay.
which is why I'm, again, a huge believer in say yes, just do it, just go for that coffee, just go for that conversation. So I was looking at all of these roles, looking at job fairs, going to these events so you can actually meet people in person and chat to them. I feel like we've gone to kind of, we're in a world now where people will scan your kind of CV and not even consider you, where it's like, actually get yourself in front of that person and chat to them. So ended up going to a job fair because there were a lot of football clubs there. And I was looking at, like I say, sports. I was looking at account management roles, and I know there were quite a few account management roles in a number of football clubs. And I was like, that would be amazing. Obviously, everyone was probably saying the exact same thing. So I went to this job fair to speak specifically to these companies. And I was just kind of roaming around, and there was this stall with the company I'm at the moment, estate agency. And I was like, oh, that's so funny. Like, I've always loved property. Always loved real estate, but I've never, ever considered it. And there was this lovely girl there who I actually work with now. And she said to me, she goes, oh, have you considered estate agency? I said, oh, don't be silly. No, of course not. She was like, why? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, I love property, and it is salesy and it is commission based, but no, it's not kind of where I'm at in my career. And she was like, just come and chat to the recruitment manager. She's just gone for, I don't know where she was, gone. Come and chat to her. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I will. Anyway, came back, was chatting to her, and she goes, just come in for a coffee next week. And I was like, oh, really? Like, I'm not sure. She's like, come in for a coffee next week. And I was like, okay, what's the worst that's going to happen? Sure, here are my details. If anything comes of it, great. If not, whatever. So kind of carried on my day, went and spoke to the football companies, other companies that, do you know what, great opportunity, these job fairs. There were companies there that I'd never heard of that actually I would have considered looking back now. Media companies, medical companies. There's a huge medical kind of sales world that I, again, was oblivious to.
Was this a sales focus?
It wasn't necessarily, but a lot of the roles that they were promoting were sales based. So yeah, great. But there's so many fairs, networking events that I think people should go to for free as well. Like there are some that obviously charge you, but there are so many out there that
And which one was this? I can't remember. Was it in London?
It was in London. It was in Westfield. I actually think it might have been called like the London Job Show or something like that. I'll find out details so we can put it down. But yeah, it was something like that. So the next week came around, get a call from the recruiter. She's like, hi, Megan. I was like, who is this? She goes, it's Catherine. You coming in for that coffee? And I was like, oh, yeah, actually, I will. Like, why not? It's around the corner from where I live. Why not go and have a conversation? Anyway, so I ended up going for this coffee, which ended up being actually a full-blown interview, and just got an amazing feel from the coffee, from the interview, from the people working there. I was like, I don't know why I've never considered this before. Real estate, which is something I'm hugely passionate about, in the salesy, commission-based role, why not do it? So yeah, took a bit of a risk and went for it.
Okay, so let's just talk about, so we know how you did it. So real estate or estate agency wasn't on your sort of, board of, I'm going to target these
absolutely
things.
not.
But the opportunity came around, you
Yes.
said yes to it.
Yes.
And I assume it felt right.
It felt right. It really did feel right. It's not something, like I say, not something I'd even considered.
Yeah.
It's something I'd considered years before. My family have been in the property world, so it's always something I've been aware of. But
okay, so when you were thinking about moving, or when you moved, did you struggle with anything in particular? For example, I can imagine people were sort of thinking that this move into real estate is kind of a move backwards. Having spent 7-10 years in a corporate, it's almost like starting from scratch in terms of a new industry, a new career.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of people, a lot of raised eyebrows saying, "What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Like, why are you moving into a completely new role, into a completely new industry?" I had some people saying, like, why are you chucking away all of this time in having spent in kind of KPMG in a consulting firm? But it truly, I mean, it's hard not to listen to outside noise, but I truly thought this is what I want to do, and actually all of the skills and experience that I've gained to date can only help me in my next career move. So yeah, it's very easy to say block it out, but yeah, I definitely think there are a few people questioning why I was doing it, and why I thought that would be a good kind of career move in my life. But yeah, it was genuinely one of the best moves ever, and I couldn't be kind of more fulfilled or happier to have done it. So definitely don't listen to other people's opinions. It's your career. You're the one that has to get up every day and do the role. So as long as you're happy, cut out the stigma. It really doesn't matter.
How did you cope with that noise? Did it make you doubt your move, or did you just sort of block it out? Because some people, I'm sure, would struggle to block it out, especially if it's coming from perhaps their parents. How did you cope with it?
It took a while, to be fair, and I look back and I'm like, why was I like that? But when I first moved into the role, I remember being a bit sheepish when I would say, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I'm going into a state agency. Like, I'd almost question myself. And I was like, no, say it with confidence. I'm doing this because I want to do it. So I think it's just kind of going back to the reason I was moving in the first place. I wasn't fulfilled in my previous role. I wasn't getting challenged. I was kind of coasting. I was perhaps a little bit bored. So it's kind of always go back to the reason why you're making the move, and then it maybe helps you kind of get through that challenge and that outside noise, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. Just remind yourself the reason why
you're doing it. Why are you doing this?
Yes. Yeah, and you're not doing it to impress others.
No.
Like, at the end of the day, it's your life, and you're the one that's
you've got to live
work.
it. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. So do it for you. Don't do it for anyone else, and then you'll always be kind of sure that it's the right decision.
Yeah. And so that was something that perhaps, did you struggle with getting your head around that, or were there other things or challenges that you had switching from where you were to a state agency?
I think there was a huge stigma around it. It was kind of like, oh, you're going from the kind of consulting finance world into a state agency. Like, why are you doing that? And people were genuinely baffled when I'd say it's because I want to do it. It's because I love it, and I want that challenge, and why not? Like, literally, why not? What have I got to lose? And I think it does depend on everyone's situation. I was in a position where I could maybe take a bit of a pay cut and take a bit of a risk. So yeah, I think the main challenges were the stigma. You're right, starting completely from scratch again. So starting in an industry, a completely new industry, going from a non-commission based role to a commission based role was a huge factor. I don't think people realise until you're in a commission based role how much pressure there is on kind of those roles. But yeah, all of that was a complete 180, a complete change in my career.
Okay, so let's focus on the pay cut, because quite a few people are scared to make a move because of that, but they then get stuck in a job where they are miserable because for the wrong reasons, right? Yeah. And as you spend longer in a role, it becomes increasingly more difficult to make that move.
Completely.
Because you're handcuffed to that salary that is only going to increase over time. So it sounds like you did take a pay cut. Completely. Did you have to prepare in advance for that? Sort of, did you put some savings aside? How did you adjust? Did you have to, cut back on holiday perhaps?
Yeah,
how did you make that transition?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's people remain in jobs year on year because they entice you with that next step, with that next pay rise, and it's so easy to then adjust your lifestyle to that pay. So taking a pay cut was a huge factor, and yes, I had to massively adjust in the sense of putting savings aside, kind of reevaluating what my priorities were in terms of do I want kind of an easy life, job fulfilled, or do I want this like new challenge, job fulfillment. So had to cut back on a lot of stuff in preparation for a pay cut for a new career, because who knows how long it's going to take to kind of get up to speed, to start seeing commission coming in. It could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be 2 years. So yeah, I was scared. I was like, what if this doesn't work out? And then I'm 6 months down the line and have to start from scratch again. So yeah, it was kind of, I was just really focusing on, I want a new challenge. I don't want to keep remaining in this kind of hamster wheel where I'm not fulfilled. So I was really holding on to that end goal, which kind of helped me, I guess, get through. But absolutely, from a logistical and kind of personal perspective, I had to adjust to making that move.
Makes sense. And so how long have you been in that role now?
Since June, so nearly a year. What is that, 9 months? Yeah, roughly 9 months.
Okay, right. So how is it going, and how was the transition? Was it easier than you thought it'd be, more difficult?
It was easier than I actually anticipated. And it's so funny to get people's opinions now as well, because I think going from a very organized, very set role into a commission-based role where you kind of need to be quite adjustable and kind of go with the flow, and I thought I was going to be quite regimented and really struggle with that adaptation, but actually really, really good transition. Absolutely loved the new kind of challenge. Like I say, it was a different kind of challenge. I think in the previous roles that I'd done, it was a very kind of mental challenge and more complex kind of brainstorming and thought processing and all of that, whereas this role is more grinding. Like, it's hard work, it's long hours, it's 24/7, it's kind of a consistent grind, fast paced. So it's a lot more grinding on me as kind of an individual, whereas the other one was a lot more of like a mental kind of strategizing, that kind of challenge. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I think because it is commission based, it goes back to your point earlier around you wanted that sort of sense of achievement each day or week, whatever it was, and because you've got those targets, you're achieving something.
Yeah.
And it's personal.
Yeah,
you know, and to your other point, the more you put in, the more you are rewarded for it. Whereas sometimes when you're at a corporate and it's non-commission, you, no matter what you do that day, you're still going to get paid your salary at the end of the month. Yes, maybe you have a bonus that is determined by performance, but it's very different. So I can imagine that on you, the pressure, there's more pressure. But it sounds like that's what you were looking for.
Absolutely. And it's self-motivating. It's like you are basically working for yourself. Whatever you put in, you will get out. You want to work harder, you will get rewarded for that. You want to take it chilled for a week, you'll see that. So it's kind of, it's totally on you. The onus is on you as to how you get rewarded, how you perform. So yeah, that was exciting. I loved that, because like I said before, I kind of, not in I'm saying this in a confident way, not cocky, but like, I backed myself and I wanted to prove myself. I wanted to show that you don't need X experience to do well. You can come in with a completely different background and still succeed. So yeah.
For sure. So do you think this role and this path you're on now feels more aligned to you and what you want?
Yeah, massively. I'm a huge kind of self-competitive person. I love the kind of the fact that I can continue to improve and continue to do better. And I think this role accommodates for that. Like, there is no kind of cap. You can just keep going and keep succeeding and keep doing better and keep learning and keep, just challenging yourself. And whilst that's absolutely exhausting, I think it's just so motivating and so exciting.
And if you think about the sort of core skills that you used at KPMG, the ones perhaps you enjoyed, and it sounds like, you know, the people side of things, is that something that you feel you use, I'm sure you do, in your current role? Are there any other skills that you can see you used back then that you use now and that have helped you, I guess, excel in your role now?
Absolutely. I think it sounds like such a basic one, but the organizational skills that I think people learn in corporate firms, Outlook, all the Microsoft kind of, the Excel, the Outlook team, whatever it may be, all of those, like, you really learn to use them in a kind of really methodical way. So those organizational skills I've really brought into estate agency and have genuinely helped me be kind of stay on top of what is a really, really fast-paced, constant moving role. So that one for sure. And then people skills massively, but also dealing with kind of difficult conversations and not shying away from those has been a massive skill that I've brought in. I think in resource management, especially in my last role at KPMG in transaction services, it was super fast paced and we had to have difficult conversations 24/7 because it was just constantly changing, and you're having these conversations with really, really senior partners at KPMG. So I think taking those skills and bringing them into my role now, I don't shy away from a single conversation. I'm happy to have any conversation with anyone, because what's the worst that's going to happen? Like, what is the worst going to happen? I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'll just pop that in an email, pick up the phone, call them, have the conversation, and it will be fine. You just chat it through. So I think I've really, really taken that from my previous roles.
Yeah, no, I think that's really interesting, especially the sort of organization from the corporate, almost bringing that into, I mean, estate agents, I'm sure, have some level of, organization, but
100%.
From sort of a big corporation level, I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they teach, I know it sounds crazy, but you learn over the years in these corporate firms how to write an email. I know like it sounds silly, but how to really, like, your communication skills are so much better than perhaps someone who hasn't experienced that, or you just communicate in a different style. So I do actually think a lot of these firms give you some really good kind of foundation skills to then move on to whatever it may be. But those kind of core foundation skills are really, really useful.
Yeah. Okay, so if you could go back 5 years, would you have made this move sooner, or would you have done anything differently?
I actually don't think I would have done. I think those extra years and the different company and the different role kind of gave me the experiences and the skills that I needed. And I think I was at a point in my life when I moved into estate agency, I was at a point where I was ready for the change, and perhaps 5 years ago I may not have been. So I'm really glad I kind of gave it a really, really good shot, and I really wanted to make sure that it wasn't the right role for me before just kind of saying, oh no, don't love it, gonna move roles. I really, really wanted to be sure of that, because it was a great role and I did enjoy it. It just wasn't my long-term career. So I'm glad I stuck it out. Really had a good experience, really learned so much. And then I just think it put me in a good position to move on to my next role. So no, I'm glad the timings worked out as they did.
Amazing. And for anyone listening that might be interested in getting into real estate, what would your advice be for them?
It's such an exciting role.
And you are based in London, are you?
I'm based in London. I'm in lettings. It is fast paced. It is challenging. It is non-stop. So you've got to be prepared to put the hours in, prepared to put the hard work in. It is office based, 5 days a week. We work certain Saturdays. So it is a hard grind, but the rewards are there. You get out what you put in. If you're willing to put the hard work in, you will see the rewards. And it's interesting. It's constantly changing. You're meeting people every day. The weeks go so quickly. We are in and out of the office. You're just out and about all day. It's great. It is not your typical office-based 9 to 5. If you're looking for that, it's not that. But if you're ready for a kind of change, if you want a real challenge. If you're not really sure but kind of want to test it, do it. Like it is the kind of job as well that you can do for a number of years and get some really good people skills out of it, and really challenge yourself to be kind of a bit more of that outgoing person, because you do need to be confident and you need to be up for that.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
think
how many people do you meet a day?
oh my gosh, yeah, a huge number.
Yeah.
A huge number. And you're speaking to so many people, and people naturally don't love estate agents. So you're going to get kind of, bad mouthed. You're going to get people on the phone being like, will you pee off? Like you're going to get all of those kind of, you're going to get the backlash. But yeah, with the bad comes a lot of good. The people are amazing. The opportunities are amazing. But it is hard work. So you've got to be prepared for that.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. So now we're just gonna sort of wrap up with some final advice for anyone listening that wants to make a move, just generally. So a lot of people listening might be in a similar position to you, you know, quite comfortable. I could carry on, but just maybe there's something out there that gives me a bit more, makes me feel a bit more fulfilled. What would you say to them?
I would say work out what it is that you're kind of unhappy with. Is it like, are you working 5 days in the office but you're craving that kind of hybrid role? Is it the role itself? Is it the industry? Is it the people you're working with? Are you in a small firm but you're actually craving more of a bigger firm? So find out what the levers are that are kind of making you not feel fulfilled, and then try changing one of them. See if that changes anything. If no, then try changing another one. The minute you start seeing that change, then you'll figure out what it is that's actually driving you to feel that way, and then change that. So I think it's very easy to just kind of make a huge drastic change, and it might not solve all of your feelings. So try and be a little bit more strategic with your move, and make it slow and steady until you find the kind of the perfect middle ground. There's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be things that you wish you had. I would love to have a day from home work. I went from full-time remotely to full-time in the office. I'd give anything for a day at home now and again. But what I then remember is actually being at home 5 days a week made me feel isolated. I wasn't at a point in my life where I needed that flexibility. So think about where you are in your life, what flexibility do you need, what you're passionate about, find all of those little segments, and then kind of, like I say, try and think about what adjustments would really help you.
Love that. And what about one step that they could make right now or tomorrow, perhaps, if they wanted to make a career transition?
I would go back to the power of your network. Put yourself out there. Speak to people. Say you're thinking about it. Go and have a coffee with so-and-so. Go and have a conversation with your mentor. Ask for a new mentor if your current mentor has been the same for years on years. Go put yourself out there and have those conversations with people who look at stuff from maybe a different perspective than you do. Don't go to the same people that you always go to who are going to give you the same advice. Speak to different friends, speak to friends of friends. Really put yourself out there, widen your network, and just see what comes from that would be a good first step, I think.
I love that. And I think sort of goes back to you didn't even think about real estate, but actually, had you not met that lady at that careers fair, then you may not be working the job you are now. So I love that. So thinking about, okay, message 5 people right now or tomorrow. It could be on LinkedIn. It could be a text message if you know them, whatever. Asking to have a quick
coffee.
15-minute Zoom call. It's so easy these days.
Absolutely.
Even if they're in a completely different industry to you, just to find out about what they do, because if you may be interested in that. So I think that's really great.
You may not know what's out there, and it may be the right role for you.
Yeah.
And you've just never even considered it. So yeah, I would start by having as many conversations as you can. But with that comes putting yourself out there, which I think a lot of people are afraid to do, and it's yeah, it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah, I love that. So I think, I mean, this has been great. I think for me, I've obviously learned loads, and I think some of the key takeaways are you definitely don't need a degree to succeed in a corporate at all. It's all around, you know, your approach to it, your approach to the role, your mindset, just making the most of every opportunity, saying yes, which I think is so important. I think, you know, taking a pay cut from a career is definitely worthwhile because in the long run you'll feel more fulfilled. You know, and fear and stigma shouldn't stop you from making a change, because Absolutely. At the end of the day, it's your life. You're the one that's got to live it. So why are you listening to other people? Because they're not living your life.
Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more.
So yeah, I mean, any final words? I think it's been amazing.
No, thank you for having me. I think, yeah, just really just, I think that the saying yes thing is such a huge one for me. Just take every opportunity, like really, really go above and beyond in whatever you're doing and just see what comes from it. Just say yes, do more, work harder, like the kind of rewards will come, and that kind of self-fulfillment, that job fulfillment is there. It's just, it's hard to find. And I think we're lacking the tools to find it. So I think Maze is an amazing idea. And I wish we had more of that in my, well, I wish I had more of that in my kind of early years in my career. But just see what's out there and be open. Just be open to anything. Don't shut anything down before you've given it a real kind of shot or done your research on it. So yeah, be open, say yes, and genuinely, like, you will find your path. And it may not be forever. It may be a temporary path, and that's fine. And then you move on to the next thing, but just do what's right for you at your time in your life, at like whatever time you're in your life. And see what happens.
Yeah, and make the most of each
Make
of
the
those
most of it. Absolutely.
opportunities, because whatever you put in, you'll get out.
Absolutely.
You'll learn. Every experience is an experience, and it will help you in your next thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Well, Meg, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
And yeah, I hope your story inspires other people to make that career transition, make that move, even if their parents are saying, "What? You're starting again?" You know, career-wise. Yeah. Or what? How are you going to survive on that pay cut?
Yeah.
I think it's worth it in the long run. So
absolutely.
Yes, really hope, and I'm sure it will. Your story will help others. And yeah, it's been amazing to hear from you. So thank you
for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. My mission with this podcast is simple: inspire you to take that leap, make that career move, or start that business you've been dreaming about. If this has inspired you in any way, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment, subscribe, or simply share it with someone that you think might benefit from hearing it too. This podcast is powered by Maze, a technology platform designed to help people start in their careers. If this is you, go and follow Maze on socials. You never know, it may be the tool you didn't know you needed. See you next time.